Welcome to FairPlay, Football AI Review, and what a way to open a World Cup group campaign. 2 goals each, a late equalizer in the dying minutes, and Group F refusing to hand anyone an easy start. Netherlands and Japan shared the spoils in a 2-2 draw in Dallas, a result that felt fair by the end but deeply frustrating for the Dutch, who led twice and twice were pegged back. Group F is wide open heading into Matchday 1. Netherlands arrived in Dallas as the pre-tournament favorites to top the section, carrying the weight of a nation that believes this squad is built to go deep. Japan, fresh from Asia's qualifying campaign and increasingly respected on the world stage, needed a statement to announce themselves. Both teams left with 1 point apiece, which satisfies neither side. Ronald Koeman's preparations were straightforward on the injury front. No confirmed absences for the Dutch, with their strongest available squad at his disposal. Hajime Moriyasu had similar fortune, fielding a full-strength Japan side featuring a deeply European-based squad, including Hiroki Ito of Bayern Munich, Daichi Kamada of Crystal Palace, and Tsuyoshi Watanabe of Feyenoord. These are not just names on a team sheet. They are players accustomed to the highest levels of club football. Koeman set his Netherlands side up in a 4-3-3, with Frenkie de Jong anchoring the midfield and Ryan Gravenberch given license to drive forward. The intent was to dominate possession, use the full width through Denzel Dumfries on the right and Mickey van de Ven bombing forward from left back, and pin Japan back with relentless pressing and quick circulation. It was an attacking setup built on the assumption of control. Moriyasu countered with a 3-4-3, a compact defensive shell designed to frustrate the Dutch width and invite pressure before striking on the transition. Takefusa Kubo and Keito Nakamura operated in the half spaces as the creative engines behind lone striker Ayase Ueda. It was a disciplined, pragmatic shape, not a formation designed to dominate, but one designed to survive and punish. The key tactical mismatch emerged in the wide areas. Netherlands used their fullbacks aggressively, particularly Dumfries, whose overlapping runs down the right created overloads against Japan's wing-back structure. However, Japan's 3-man backline gave them numerical security centrally, meaning the Dutch had to find ways to shift the block rather than go through it. When they did, it came through delivery from deep, and that is precisely how the opener arrived. The first half was surprisingly cautious. Netherlands had the ball, 60% of it across the 90 minutes, but Japan pressed with discipline and offered very little space in behind. Gravenberch and de Jong rotated cleverly to try to drag the Japanese midfield out of shape, while Cody Gakpo drifted inside to find pockets. Chances were limited, though, and both goalkeepers were largely untested before the break. It was chess rather than football, 2 intelligent coaches feeling each other out. The second half was an entirely different story, and it opened with a Dutch statement. In the 51st minute, Ryan Gravenberch picked the ball up deep and delivered a measured cross into the area. Virgil van Dijk, captaining the side with authority all evening, timed his run perfectly and met the ball with a powerful downward header that gave Zion Suzuki no chance. 1-0 to the Netherlands, and exactly the kind of set-piece threat Japan had feared when the draw was made. Japan refused to wilt, and just 6 minutes later, they were level. Takefusa Kubo, perhaps the most exciting player on the pitch, slid a clever pass into Keito Nakamura just outside the Dutch penalty area. Nakamura struck a right-footed shot that deflected sharply off Jan-Paul van Hecke, completely wrong-footing Bart Verbruggen and curled into the bottom left corner. It was a fortunate deflection, but Japan had earned their moment. Crescencio Somerville then gave the Dutch the lead for the second time in the 64th minute. It was a goal of genuine individual quality. Cutting inside onto his left foot, he spun away from his marker and drove a firm, curling shot toward the far post, kissing the inside of the frame before finding the net. Gravenberch had again provided the creative link, 2-1, and for 20 minutes it looked like the Dutch would hold on. Before that second goal, in the 61st minute, Somerville had already been shown a yellow card for a serious foul. There was a reckless edge to the challenge, born perhaps from the pressure and adrenaline of a World Cup opener, and the referee had no hesitation. It meant Somerville was walking a disciplinary tightrope for the rest of his time on the pitch. Moriyasu reacted with purpose at the 66th minute, bringing Junya Ito on for Daisen Maeda down the left. Ito is a player of direct pace and delivery, and the substitution immediately changed Japan's attacking profile, giving them a wider, more dangerous threat and stretching the Dutch defensive block. It was Ito's corner delivery that would prove decisive in the final minutes. The 70th minute saw Koeman respond with a triple substitution of his own: Memphis Depay for Daniel Malin, Toon Koopmeiners for Somerville, and Quinton Timber for Reinders. The intent was clear: protect the lead, add ball retention in midfield, and use Depay's experience as a second striker to kill the game through counterattacks. In theory, sound. In practice, it ceded some momentum. At the 75th minute, Moriyasu made 3 more changes in one move: Koki Ogawa on for Kubo, Yukinari Sugawara on for Ritsudoan, and Takehiro Tomiyasu on for Watanabe. It was a structural reset, bringing fresh legs and more attacking intent across the whole team. Ogawa, a powerful center forward, would become central to the late drama. In the 83rd minute, Memphis Depay was booked for a foul, a cynical trip to interrupt a Japanese counterattack when the Dutch were beginning to look nervy. The card was deserved and served as a signal that Netherlands were no longer comfortable. 3 Dutch yellow cards in the second half alone told the story of a team under siege. 4 minutes later, in the 90th minute, Mickey van de Ven picked up the 3rd Dutch yellow for another foul as Japan pressed relentlessly. It was the caution of a defender desperate to keep Japan out at the death. And ultimately, it was in vain. Then came the gut punch. In the 89th minute, Junya Ito swung a corner into the Dutch area. Koki Ogawa rose highest, his header staying alive in a crowded box, and Daichi Kamada applied the decisive final touch to deflect the ball past a helpless Bart Verbruggen. 2-2, and the AT&T Stadium erupted in disbelief. It was the most Japanese of goals: organized, patient, clinical in execution, and it broke Dutch hearts. That corner, that moment in the 89th minute, is the decisive turn of the match. The Netherlands had managed the game reasonably well for 25 minutes at 2-1, and then a single set piece undid everything. It encapsulates the vulnerability of this Dutch side, dominant in open play but occasionally fragile from dead ball situations, particularly when legs tire and concentration wavers. Possession told a clear story: 60% for Netherlands against 40% for Japan, with 464 accurate passes compared to Japan's 287, and pass accuracy of 89% against 84%. The Dutch controlled the game's tempo, but control of the ball did not translate into control of the scoreline. That is the most telling fact of all. In terms of attacking threat, Netherlands generated an expected goals figure of 1.04 against Japan's 0.49. The Dutch had 10 shots overall, 6 on target, while Japan matched them at 10 total, but only 3 on target. Verbruggen made 4 saves across the evening. The stats suggest Netherlands were the more dangerous team, and they were, but Japan's clinical use of their limited chances was the difference between leaving with a point and leaving empty-handed. Defensively, Japan were genuinely impressive for long stretches. Their 3-man backline absorbed Dutch pressure with composure, and Suzuki in goal commanded his box well for most of the match. The Dutch defense had a harder night. Van Hecke's deflection for the first Japanese goal and the chaos at the 89th minute corner both pointed to moments of vulnerability that sharper teams in later rounds could target. Ryan Gravenberch was the standout performer for Netherlands, providing assists for both Dutch goals and acting as the engine of everything positive they produced. His range of passing, his willingness to drive into space, and his composure in a high-pressure environment were exceptional. He completed the evening with 2 direct goal contributions and a level of influence that few midfielders matched across the opening round of the tournament. For Japan, Takefusa Kubo was electric when he was on the pitch. Real Sociedad's winger created the situation that led to the equalizer, constantly found space in the Dutch half spaces, and gave Mickey van de Ven a torrid evening defensively. He was withdrawn at 75 minutes, but had already shaped the match significantly. demonstrating why he is considered one of the most exciting attacking talents in European football. The player who struggled most was Daniel Malin. As the designated right-side attacker in Koeman's front three, Malin was expected to stretch Japan's defense and create width. He rarely threatened in behind, his link-up play with Dumfries was inconsistent, and he was the first of the Dutch forwards to be substituted. On a night when Somerville shone, Malin was conspicuously absent from the big moments. Koeman's triple substitution at 70 minutes is the decision that will be questioned most. Protecting a one-goal lead with fresh defensive midfielders is logical on paper, but it drained the attacking energy that had created the lead in the first place. Japan smelled the shift in intention and pressed even harder. Whether those changes ultimately cost Netherlands the 2 points remains debatable, but the timing exposed the Dutch to a spell of late pressure they could not withstand. The head-to-head context between these two nations is limited, but historically meaningful. Their last meeting before this was the 2010 World Cup group stage, which Netherlands won. This draw is only their second ever meeting at a World Cup, and it represents Japan's best result against a top-tier European nation in the tournament proper. The Blue Samurai are no longer making up the numbers, they are competing. Netherlands arrived in Texas on the back of an impressive qualifying campaign that included an 8-0 demolition of Malta and consistent wins across their European group. Their form line showed 5 wins and 2 draws from their last 7 games, a side in good rhythm. But Koeman will be acutely aware that this squad has a habit of dropping points in big moments, and this was another example of that pattern. Japan came into this tournament having won their third-round Asian qualifying group with real conviction, beating Saudi Arabia away and producing a 6-0 hammering of Indonesia recently. Their last competitive loss before this was to Australia in qualifying, and even that form line reflects a team that is cohesive and well-drilled. Moriyasu has built something genuine here. Looking at Group F's standings, Sweden lead with 3 points after matchday 1, Japan and Netherlands sit level on 1 point each, and Tunisia have yet to open their account. The Dutch qualification likelihood is now under real pressure. They need a result against Sweden in their next match, and Sweden arrive with momentum and goals behind them. Japan's position is more comfortable given their upcoming fixture against Tunisia, which they will be expected to win. The remaining fixtures are brutally significant. Netherlands face Sweden next before closing against Tunisia, while Japan take on Tunisia before a final day showdown with Sweden. If Japan beat Tunisia and Netherlands lose to Sweden, the Dutch could find themselves in a desperate final day position. Sweden have the quality to beat both remaining opponents, which means every point now counts. This is a group that is genuinely open, and the honest prediction is that Japan and Sweden will advance to the knockout stage. Japan showed the resilience and tactical intelligence to compete with any team at this level, and their late equalizer tonight proved they will never stop fighting. Netherlands must now beat Sweden, a tall order, or they risk an early exit that would represent one of the greater disappointments in their recent World Cup history. 2-2, 4 goals, all in the second half, a match that began quietly and finished in chaos at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Netherlands were the better team for large portions of the game, but gifted Japan the opportunity to deny them twice, through set-piece vulnerability and defensive lapses at critical moments. Japan were compact, disciplined, and ruthlessly efficient when it mattered. That is not a formula for being a World Cup also-ran. That is a formula for advancing. This is fair play, and we will be back with more Group F action as Japan face Tunisia, and the Dutch must summon something extra against Sweden. The 2 points that slipped away in Dallas could define whether Ronald Koeman's generation of talent leaves this tournament prematurely or fulfills the promise that brought them here. That's the fair play verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony Fairplay. See you next match.